Well, I thought we'd film my wife putting together this casserole dish to take to work tomorrow. And she's gonna, like pulling teeth getting her to talk on the video. So she's gonna explain what's in her recipe, and that's her old thing that's getting sort of weak. It's been around for a while. She's cut it out of the magazine a long time ago. Go ahead, my bride.
It's called a fancy egg scramble, and what I do is I've got about 3 tablespoons of butter in the pan, and I've chopped up, the recipe calls for 1/4 cup of onion. I like extra onion, so this is probably a little bit closer to 1/3 to 1/2 a cup of onion. And it also calls for a 3-ounce can of mushroom stems and pieces drained, and I have saved the stem pieces and sliced up some mushrooms, so I'm going to measure out probably about 1/2 a cup of mushrooms, maybe a little bit more, again, because I like mushrooms. And it's going to take 12 eggs that you scramble, and you're going to cook the eggs after you cook the onion and the mushrooms until they're just cooked. And then I make a cheese sauce using a thin white sauce that I add the cheese to, and put it in a casserole dish and put it in the refrigerator overnight so that in the morning I can take it out, and after about 30 minutes I'll put it in the oven and cook it at 350.
And what do you use the bacon for?
Actually, the recipe calls for Canadian bacon that you would cook in here, and I have used ham and I've used country ham before, but we're having a breakfast tomorrow at work, and there's another lady who's bringing a potato casserole, and she's putting ham in that, so I thought I'd just crumble up some bacon. When we cook bacon, we just cook it all at one time, and what I don't use in the recipe is going to go back into the freezer. It calls for a cup of the diced Canadian bacon, so I'm probably going to put at least a cup of bacon bits in the recipe.
Back in a second. Years ago we were at somebody's house and they were fixing breakfast, and the lady complained that when she opened her eggs up, cracking them on the side of the counter or table or whatever, that her fingernails would break the yolk. And so I got a dinner knife and just said, hold the egg. Normally it just goes in, but this is live television. Normally if you hit it just right, and you have to acquire the taste, it just pops it and everything comes out. So I just thought that maybe, rather than stick your fingernails in it and bust the yolks, and since we had 12 of them to do, and all these egg shells will go in their compost pile, because that is super stuff to put in a compost pile. And you don't be timid, you gotta whack it good. But see, it's just a nice clean cut. You don't end up with shells. And that's a dozen eggs. Well, the eggs are all scrambled up with a whisk. The butter is melted, and it's time to put the mushrooms and onions in it. I'm going to turn it up just a hair. Should be sizzling. My wife cooks like I do. We don't measure a lot of things. We have to tell people what to use in measurements so they can do it, but we don't particularly do it that way. And see, she does it like good cooks. What looks right. And my bride's putting the rest of the mushrooms in a plastic bag, because I'm not a big mushroom fan, but my wife loves them. And she sauteed these. The onions are translucent. They've been in there maybe 2.5, 3 minutes. Now that they've finished sauteing, she's going to slip those into a bowl while she cooks the eggs. You have to realize that some things cook after you take them out of the pan, so you have to sort of judge that to keep it from overcooking. A little butter into the cast iron frying pan. While that warms up, because it's on a low setting, she's breaking up bacon to put in with the mushrooms. Because she has under her arm there is all the bacon. It's about 8 pieces chopped up, breaking it in your fingers. And it's time to cook the eggs. No salt or pepper in the eggs because the salt and pepper will be in the cheese part of the recipe. I'm sure y'all can all see she's putting bacon on top of the eggs. And there she's getting it all sort of evenly dispersed. Back when it gets cooking a little more. My bride is spraying her casserole dish. Just wipe the tops off and the edges around the top with a paper towel. I don't know if y'all do that, but you ever notice that you have to scour that area the hardest? Especially using that kind of spray or any kind of shortening or butter. We just wipe it off, less scrubbing. You cook this on a slow heat. That's between 6 and 7 on this range. You don't want to cook eggs really fast because you have a tendency to overcook them. And see, while this is coming up like this, the onions and mushrooms and all are being cooked a little more. You can see how the eggs are slowly cooking. They've probably been in there at least 5-6 minutes. We haven't been timing it. At this way you can control when the cooking process ends because it's not done in a hurry. Here's about 2 minutes later. So it's been cooking probably 8-10 minutes, and normally a normal person would have burnt the egg where it's tasteless by now. The peak flavor is just before it gets done. If you take it off the table and put scrambled eggs in your plate, they'll keep cooking. You have to take them off before they finish cooking. And the flavor is astronomical. If they overcook, the flavor goes right out the window. Well, the way I say, get the camera real quick because this has got to come over here now. And I know y'all know I call her my bride. Here's a little thing. Around her I call her my wife. Sometimes I'll call her my bride. But when I'm like at the river and I go off trying to find her, I tell everybody, not you, have you seen my wife? It's have you seen my bride? You know, so that's the way I will say wife sometimes and bride sometimes. Wife or bride, if they are happy, it's pretty happy everywhere around them. I learned that a long time ago.